What up? Welcome to your week 4 Rad Avenger League preview. Last week obviously was very contentious, a lot of controversy. I am dubbing it Najee-gate. Won't go into it, but I think we all remember what happened. And yikes. Anyway, after that followed up, everything worked out in everyone's favor. Nothing changed. But then we got to follow it up with a very subpar week of football. So that was great, but the worst week of football is better than the best week without football. I think we can all agree on that. So we'll just jump right into it. I am going to start with a brand new segment. Not going to be a recurring segment because I don't talk to my dad that often, but this segment is going to be called the Richard Morgan Whale Play of the Week. And basically it's when my dad tells me that some team is going to do incredible. This week, his well play is the Bengals -4. We brought that up. I was talking about it. I know we talked about it in chat. But basically, his whole point was the Dolphins played, 59 plays of defense last week and then turned around on a short week. And he said, I think his exact words were, the Bengals are going to, he didn't say shit pump, but it was something with shit that didn't make sense after that. So you heard it here first. The Bengals are going to boat race the Dolphins. So if you live in state where gambling is legal, take the Bengals -4. Lock it in. Also love the over in that game. Anyway, let's get right into the waivers. Actually, a lot of action this week. We had a lot of people go down. DeAndre Swift is probably going to miss some time. Mac Jones is probably going to miss some time, although I don't think that's going to affect anyone's lineup. David Montgomery's not 100%, may miss some more time. And then we had some people pop onto the scene that, people are actually starting to pay attention to, and they have found their way onto some waivers this week. So let's just go through it. Bottom to top, Jameson Williams added by Trevor. Kind of a stash there as he might play, and the Lions don't look completely helpless. Tim in his back and forth battle with Khalil Herbert. John still on a quest to find a quarterback not named Russell Wilson. Picked up Trevor Lawrence. We had Andrew go Greg Dortch just in time for DeAndre Hopkins to come back and him to not matter. Wade went Romeo Dobbs. Zay Jones, actually love that pick. He was my only waiver add in this week, but Raleigh picked him up. Somehow beat me to the punch there. Don't really know how that worked out. Anyway, whatever. He got Zay Jones. And then Tim with the Dolphins defense. John buying the David Njoku hype. I've always been a big believer in David Njoku. Loved him at Miami. I think he's ended up on my team every year since then. I don't see John giving him up this year. Andrew with Tyler Boyd, good pickup. Another defense. Kadarius Toney picked up by myself. He's had a pretty disappointing season. He's kind of been hurt, but with the Sterling Shepard news, and if Daniel Jones is halfway competent, should be in for some decent production. More of a stash pick than anything. We have the other St. Brown from Charlie, who now owns both St. Browns. Ben Skowronek. Sure. And then Charles. He did it. John Watson. All I'll say about that. We'll talk about it a little bit more when we get to it. That one's tough to stomach, but Charlie, whatever. I mean, if you can sleep at night, I can sleep at night. Whatever. Anyway, so let's jump into the rankings this week. A little bit of shuffling going around, and actually only 3 teams didn't move. That was myself, Raleigh, and John. So Raleigh's still in first place. Gross. The only undefeated team left after Cameron went down, followed up by Wade, who improved to 2-1. Then we have Cameron in third place. Charlie in fourth place, myself in fifth place, Andrew moving up to sixth place after improving to 2-1. John staying where he was in seventh place at 1-2. Ashley moving out of the doldrums at 1-2 in eighth place. And then the last 2 spots just swapped around based on whatever head-to-head algorithm they want to use. I still don't get it. If someone wants to explain it to me, whatever. Anyway, Tim's in ninth and Trevor bringing it up the rear in 10th place. So that's how your standings shook out after week 3. So let's go ahead and jump into these matchups. And as always, we'll start with the rankings, which means we're going to start with Raleigh. Anyway, we're going to start with Raleigh here. Let me get back to him. Damn, I got all frazzled because of fucking OBS. Raleigh's playing John. NFL has this projected 121 to 103. As the season goes on and I get to read these projections and then see the final scores, I believe in them less and less, although if you ever believed them, you whatever. Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, I think that's a pretty easy debate to start off with. And then, of course, as mentioned in the waivers, John did pick up Trevor Lawrence, but he's got a tough matchup with the Eagles defense. So I foresee Trevor Lawrence staying on the bench this week after that pickup and letting Russell Wilson see if he can finally cook against the Raiders, who have looked not great. Only completely defeated team left, not winless team. Did get corrected on that. The Texans have also not won a game, but they did tie, which I think counts as a win for the Texans. So Russell Wilson gets a pretty favorable matchup there with the Raiders, and Lamar Jackson gets a pretty unfavorable matchup against Buffalo. Having said that, matchups can only do so much when you're talking about a guy who is on pace for an MVP type season and a guy who's never received an MVP vote. And then we jump down to the running backs, which is where Riley's has been weakest consistently outside of the Aaron Jones 30-point Sunday night magic. But Christian McCaffrey and Dameon Pierce. Christian McCaffrey's been a little bit of a disappointment, but what running back hasn't this year? Dameon Pierce looks poised to finally kind of break out and do what everybody says he's going to do. And it's kind of, it's not that John really has a choice here with DeAndre Swift likely missing at least 1 week, possibly 2. Although, he's got AJ Dillon sitting there and could try to just vulture off of Raleigh and throw a dart at the board, see what happens. I mean, if AJ Dillon, goes off, then 2 for 1. And then you get to the wide receivers here. The wide receivers are pretty solid across all the teams. What needs to be said about Raleigh's, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase. He gets Mike Evans back this week off of the suspension against a KC defense who has looked okay, pretty average all season. And they're coming off a loss to the Colts. So Mike Evans should look to get things going again. And then Cortland Sutton. Just having this Cortland Sutton, Russell Wilson tied together. Everybody loved it at the beginning of the season, myself included. But the Broncos look like ass. And they did look good on that last drive last week, but a lot of that was due to the running game. And it's kind of, just the irony of Russell Wilson finally having a good running game. That's kind of why he left Seattle in the first place, is they wanted to run the ball but couldn't. Anyway, whatever. We'll get into that later. Cortland Sutton, married to Russell Wilson there. I mean, if this is the week they finally break out, then good for John. I don't foresee it happening. And then I mentioned in the waiver wire pickup that he's got David Njoku playing a Falcons team who actually hasn't looked horrible. I mean, you can only do so much with Mariota at quarterback, but they got to go to Atlanta, and I will actually be in Mercedes-Benz Stadium for that game. So congratulations to me for getting to watch that game instead of every other game this week. I'm just kidding. My girlfriend bought the tickets. It was very sweet. Anyway, I'll be there. So I'll let you know how David Njoku does. Just from a live perspective, I'll give you the all 22 stats on that one. I mean, I'm gonna pick Riley here. I think it's pretty obvious. I think everybody should pick Riley until he slips up, till he shows some weakness. I mean, just Lamb, Jack, Kupp, Chase, Evans. It really doesn't matter who else is on your team. Those guys are gonna get you 80 to 90 points, and you just need guys to fill in the gap. I didn't even notice he was starting Rashad Penny. That is gross. Ugh. But like I said, it doesn't matter. If Rashad Penny gets 5 points, then Lamb, Jack, Kupp, Chase, and Evans are just gonna put up points left and right, and then Dallas Goedert there. Just Goddard, whatever. I don't care. Anyway, Dallas Goedert. I mean, he can hang 15 any given week. It's Raleigh. It's always gonna be Raleigh. We are just forced to watch him win week in and week out. I'm sure in week 8 or 9 or 10 or whenever he'll slip up and he'll lose, and it'll be the best week for all of us. And then he'll just win every game by 30 going from then on out. So whatever, Raleigh wins. Let's move on. In second place, I don't even remember who actually was in second place. I think it's Wade. Shocked myself, even though I just read it. So let's move on to Wade. He is playing Charlie this week. And what is just an interesting matchup name-wise. And actually, NFL agrees. They may know something here about the league. Even their AI has figured out that these are two weird teams, and nobody really knows what's going to happen. So let's just put it within a point of each other. 107.8 for Charlie, 108.51 for Wade are their projections. If you're following the Richard Morgan Breadman whale play of the week, you'll know that Charlie's going to look good this week with Joey Burrow. The Miami defense should be pretty tired, should be pretty exhausted. I mean, they were on the field for 40 minutes against the Bills. They won that game, but they were on the field for 40 minutes, playing against Josh Allen and those receivers running up and down the field. No reason they really should have won that game, but whatever. They did. They're 3-0. Don't apologize for 3-0. On the other side, Justin Herbert kind of in a bounce back spot, and actually he still got a questionable by his name. Limited in practice Wednesday. But I mean, if he played last week, then I foresee him probably playing this week. Last week, 297 yards, a pick, only had 12 points, 1 touchdown. So hasn't looked like the Justin Herbert we're used to. But he gets favorable matchup in the Texans, which great for Justin Herbert in real life, probably bad for Justin Herbert in fantasy. If you're thinking the Chargers are supposed to be for real, and should get up and maybe lean on Austin Eckler or Sony Michel. To kind of just coast into an easy dub there. You look at the running backs here, and there's a lot of names, but we've talked about it this year. We talked about it in Discord earlier. The named running backs are just not getting it done outside of Nick Chubb, who, luckily Charlie's got, and he's playing the Falcons this week. And once again, I'll be there. You're welcome, Charlie. I'll give you live updates. So Chubb against the Falcons, I'm sure will just produce nonstop. But Derrick Henry's looked human. James Robinson has kind of been hit or miss here and there. Had an incredible week last week. I think he had 20? Oh, he had 19 points. Never mind. I mean, it's still really, really good. I was thinking it was like 26. James Robinson, 19, 14, and 19. Looked really good. There's just, the kind of the question mark of ETN looming over his shoulder. Ramondre Stevenson, kind of the same thing. He's really talented. We watched him be really talented. He's coming off of a big week with 73 yards on the ground, 28 through the air, and a touchdown, 18 points. But what are the Patriots going to be? Brian Hoyer is going to be starting for him. Damian Harris is still sitting there. I haven't seen news on whether or not he's going to play this week. And if he does, that's your production cut right there. Plus, once again, your Brian Hoyer is your starting quarterback. And then we got the classic Charlie double up with Amari Cooper and Nick Chubb. 2 Browns, so 2 people in the same middling offense. Jacoby Brissett loving Amari Cooper. I think Charlie has not started him 2 weeks in a row, and in those 2 weeks he went. He actually had this exact same stat line, barring 2 catches. So the last 2 weeks he's had 101 yards each week and 1 touchdown. In week 2 he has 2 more receptions. That's been the only difference between those 2 weeks. So hell, let's go for 3. 101 and a touchdown. Charlie 20 points. But we all know that now you put him in your starting lineup, so it's not going to happen. Amon-Ra St. Brown, stud, playing the Seahawks. Could see a heavy dose of Jamal Williams with DeAndre Swift out and seeing them just trying to run it down the Seahawks' throat. Don't have to take a lot of chances, but Amon-Ra is an absolute stud. Devonte Smith finally had his coming out party. All of the talk, all year has been AJ Brown. It's been Jalen Hurts has been doing incredible things to AJ Brown and with his legs. Devonte Smith got blanked in week 1, had a decent performance with 80 yards, no touchdown in week 2. Last week against the Commanders, 169 yards, a touchdown. He looked incredible. 8 receptions, 169, and a touchdown. Just dominating. They do play the Jaguars this week, who have shocked a lot of people. Your leader in the AFC South, Trevor Lawrence breakout year. So, but the Eagles are the Eagles right now. They're a juggernaut. They're unstoppable. Devonte Smith, finally back with his old buddy Jalen Hurts, looking really, really good. Kyle Pitts. I mean, this is one of the better tight end matchups, just talent-wise, across the league. I mean, I know there's not a ton of top-end tight ends that you really go into. In fact, a lot of times I just skip them unless they're really noteworthy, like Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, or Kyle Pitts. A lot has been talked about with Kyle Pitts not getting the targets he deserves. Last week, they kind of changed that. He got 8 targets, and he produced 87 yards. And it's really kind of the Falcons like, yeah, duh. He's really good. He's a generational talent. Throw him the ball. You get the ball in his hands, good things happen. He had 87 yards. So I expect to see another heavy dose of that. Drake London's also coming along, so we should look towards him. putting up some points, but Kyle Pitts is the most dominant player in that offense. They should feed the offense through him. So hopefully we see that production continue, but the Falcons aren't exactly the shining example of a great franchise. Mark Andrews gets a tough matchup at Buffalo this week, but as long as you got Lamar Jackson doing crazy things with his legs and throwing the ball, it doesn't really matter. And actually, I'm going to run back to Riley's game real quick. I heard a stat earlier on Lamar Jackson. Obviously, he is QB1. He's been QB1 2 weeks in a row. He is the top scoring quarterback in fantasy football. If you took away all of his rushing stats, if you took away his rushing production, he would be the 5th quarterback in fantasy football. Just let that sink in for a second. Anyway, back to Mark Andrews, who is obviously, he's benefiting from that. 2 weeks in a row, over 20 points, 3 rushing yards last week, or in week 2, missed that. Anyway, 104 yards and a touchdown 2 weeks ago. Last week he had 89 and 2 touchdowns. So he's dominant. He's the best. He's the best target in the Ravens offense, and the Ravens offense is absolutely fucking clicking right now. So once again, a tough matchup in Buffalo. If the Ravens can get it done this week, or they can show up and that offense can still be elite, I think we gotta start watching out for the Ravens. Should be 3-0, barring just the most insane Dolphins comeback we've ever seen. And then if you flip over to Charlie's side, I don't know if he's going to fix this because he doesn't have a defense on his team, but he's got the Ravens defense playing the Buffalo Bills. Ravens defense is not good. I mean, just straight up, it's not good. They've been scoring a decent amount, 11, 7, 11, but that was against the Jets. The Dolphins, who, they put 42 on them. They just happened to get 2 picks and a sack earlier in the game. And then against the Patriots, who at this point might be the worst offense in the NFL. Especially after Mac Jones got hurt. Even before that, they weren't good, and they still gave up 26 points to him. They just, a couple sacks, a couple picks, and a fumble. The Ravens defense is not great. I mean, they gave up 26 points to the Patriots. The Patriots are Vegas has them projected to score 15 points this week. And they gave up 26. The Ravens defense is not good, and they're playing Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. So, Charlie, this is your word to the wise. Fucking pick up literally anyone else. And I am fully aware I will probably look really stupid after Josh Allen throws 2 picks. Anyway, so running down the matchups here, this is probably the toughest game to pick of all of them that I've gone through. Not just this week. Like, I'm talking about since I started this at the beginning of the year. Because it's so close, I'm going to give the deciding factor to Charlie just because it's Charlie, and look at what he does. He just wins fantasy football games. That's it. Unless it's Riley or myself in that 1 week last year when Matthew Stafford almost ripped my heart out and knocked me out of the playoffs. It's Charlie just wins. I'm going to sit here and talk about how bad the Ravens defense is and how many points they're going to give up against the Bills, and they're going to score 18 this week. So, going with Charlie, that's the pick. So far we got Riley winning, we got Charlie winning. Now we're going to move on to, my memory is ass cheeks this week. I'm recording this kind of in a flurry. It's been a very busy week actually. We got Cameron next, and Cameron is playing Trevor. Cameron has been, I know he started 2-0. Let me get that out there. He started 2-0 in first place for a minute. He's kind of been on a downward trend. And I know it's hard to say that after he lost week 1, but let's not forget, he got absolutely bailed out by Stefan Diggs, dropping 38 on Monday Night Football. Sorry, John. I didn't mean for you to catch a stray there, but it's what happened. He got bailed out by Stefan Diggs. Once again, you don't apologize for wins. He's 2-1. He's in 3rd place. Great. Stefan Diggs is an incredible player. Obviously, you're starting him. Obviously, it was good for him to start him. I'm not making excuses for that. He got bailed out. Anyway, Trevor has also been on a downtrend. Going all the way back to last year, he's now lost 4 games in a row. Now, granted, the first one was the championship game last year, but he's lost 4 games in a row. That's not good for anybody. I don't care who you are. That L3, add a 4 to it. It's 4 games in a row. Anyway, not to beat a dead horse, Trevor's lost 4 games in a row. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has no one to throw to. We've talked about that. He's playing the Patriots this week. They're not good. The Patriots are really, really bad. And he's got Tua sitting on the bench. I mean, that's a decision he's going to have to live with the entire year. Of does he start Tua? Does he start Aaron Rodgers? I think the clear answer through 3 weeks so far is Tua. Unless we get word that he's not going to play. But it says right here he's expected to suit up. I think as long as Tua's playing, you put him in the lineup. He's got too many weapons. He's got too many opportunities to score. He didn't look great last week, but it was the Buffalo Bills. And ended up winning that game. I mean, he's got too many opportunities to put guys in the end zone. So I'm starting Tua, Aaron Rodgers, 3-16-16. I mean, he's efficient. He's good. He can win a game. I don't love him as a fantasy option, especially when you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole like this. You need to kind of take your shots here. Kamara, he's been probably, I'm trying to run through and make sure I don't, shit the bed here and forget somebody, but probably the most disappointing first round player that we've had so far. I mean, Najee hasn't been incredible, but he's putting up decent performance. Kamara's got 12 points through the season, hasn't scored a touchdown. Now he missed week 2. He did not play in week 2. He was injured, but still 39 yards on the ground week 1, 7 in the air, 61 on the ground and 12 in the air in week 3 against the Panthers. They got to go to London this week. He's still kind of banged up from the rib injury, it looks like. He limited practice time, and just I mean, it all comes down to right here. The Saints offense looks terrible. It's awful. I mean, they put up stats. Jameis Winston will get you 350 yards, but that's after he's thrown 4 interceptions and they're down by 4 scores. As a Michael Thomas owner, I don't even watch the Saints game until the 4th quarter when they're down by 2 scores and he has to throw the ball. Chris Olave's looked really good, but it's because they're down in the 4th quarter and they've got wide open space. There's nothing tells me that the Saints offense is going to be good in a tight game, and especially not having to travel across to London and play a 9:30 a.m. game. Well, 8:30 our time, 9:30 on the app here, and 9:30 for oh wait, is it? I'm getting confused with time zones. 8 time zones. Anyway, 8:30 kickoff there. Saquon Barkley is incredible. I mean, he's fully back into form. 30, 10, and 20. And even that 10 points, I mean, that's 72 yards on the ground that he had against Carolina in a win. They kind of, it's Carolina. They kind of had that wrapped. Saquon Barkley is incredible. And, at this point, number 1 running back in fantasy, at least he has that to make up for Kamara being essentially just a non-factor. Basically just a reserve spot on his team all season so far. Going over to the other side here, Josh Jacobs and which Williams is this? Javonte Williams. Sorry, there's too many J Williams in the league. Javonte Williams, talent-wise, was my favorite running back coming into the year. Just where you could get him in the draft, the talent that he had. And he hasn't lived up to that, but a lot of that has to do with the Broncos haven't lived up to that. Javonte Williams has been the bright spot in that offense. Unfortunately, he's just getting fucked by Melvin Gordon, who was also very good. Like, let's not besmirch Melvin Gordon here. I'm a Melvin Gordon believer. He's on my bench. Great stash away. Javonte Williams, like I said, watching him play football, every time I watch him play football, I gush. It's a great watch. It's him, Deebo Samuel's up there. Josh Allen obviously is just the most fun person to ever watch play a game of football. But Javonte's kind of in that category where I just love it when he has the ball in his hands, except for last week when I was playing him. He just pops off film, but he's not getting production because the Broncos can't move the football. So that's kind of, once again, like, maybe they can get it done against the Raiders, who don't have a great defense. Let's see what they can do. But until then, I'm not a believer. I don't think he's going to anchor the team, and that's not his fault. It's his teammates' fault, and Russell Wilson can't move the ball. Having said that, and then you look on the other side, and we got Tyler Lockett, who is just, you could have told me Tyler Lockett retired, and I would have believed you. He had 10 targets, 9 receptions last week. So, he's making his name off of PPR, but it's not someone I'm really excited about looking at. Stefan Diggs is just insane. Number 1 receiver in fantasy right now, 22, 38, and 10. He's saved him in week 2. Stefan Diggs is the reason that Cameron is 2-1 and in 3rd place. It's incredible. On the other side, the kind of anti-Stefan Diggs, the just most inconsistent wide receiver that he was on my team last year. He was this way last year. I mean, he's got 40 points in the last 2 weeks, and last week he had 4. So that's a roundabout way of saying he went from 36 points to 4 points. He's just inconsistent. He's boom or bust. But when he booms, god damn, does he boom. His production this week will 100% depend on whether Tua can play. I do think Teddy Bridgewater is a serviceable backup, and when you're talking about guys like Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, who all you got to do is get them the ball in space and let him go, it'll be fine if Teddy ends up coming in there. But if it's Tua all game and if he's banged up and not 100%, that's when stuff will kind of start to waver. But anyway, I don't know how to predict Tyreek Hill. I don't think you do predict Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill just goes out there and plays, and you just kind of hope for the best. It's a wing and a prayer. Nothing really crazy with the tight ends here. Freiermuth and Zach Ertz. I did pick Zach Ertz in my dream team number 1 tight end this week. Kind of a dartboard play. I mean, Carolina Cardinals looking to get back on track. Whatever. Chris Godwin in the flex spot. Is he coming back this week? Tempted to ramp up for a Sunday return. So not confirmed that he's coming back this week, but he did practice a little bit. So I guess maybe we'll see him back in the lineup. If he's in the lineup, that's great. If not, I assume, and honestly, I probably would anyway. Cam Akers is playing the 49ers. So that's a tough matchup. But Cam Akers, Breece Hall, maybe even Devin Singletary, Garrett Wilson, all those serviceable plugins for Trevor if Chris Godwin can't play. Drake London, kind of the breakout darling in Atlanta, the guy that everybody's gushing over while talking about how Kyle Pitts never gets the ball. He's had a really, really solid 2 weeks. If Mariota can keep up the good play against the Browns this weekend at home, he should be a decent flex. We're talking about predicting this matchup. I mean, it's got it 118 to 110 in favor of Cameron. And honestly, it's kind of a case of until Trevor wins a game, I don't know that I can pick him. I just don't. So I'm going to go with Cameron. Yeah, I mean, Cameron looking to bounce back off of his first loss. Trevor looking to just get anything going. I mean, if Trevor loses this week 0-4, I don't know the math, I don't know the statistics. John, I'm going to need you to get on that. Teams to start 0-4, 0-3. Actually, I think you did it. I don't have time to go find it, but I do think you did it not too long ago, and 0-3 has actually made the playoffs. Yeah. I do think that happened. Anyway, I remember reading that. 0-4 is a tough hole to come out of, so it's kind of Trevor win this week, or I guess start your 2023 mock drafts. So jumping over to the next in the rankings, which is, I believe myself. No, it's Charles, but we already did Charles. So yes, it's myself. So I'm playing Andrew this week. Andrew, realistically, Andrew should be 3-0. Obviously, we've all talked at length about the whole Gabe Davis snafu. And even with him starting an injured player who did not suit up, Andrew lost by 2 points. So Andrew should be 3-0, 100% should be 3-0, should be in second place, I guess, because Riley's just dominating the point battle. Having said that, I actually am starting to love this team this week, and it's not my team, not Andrew's, my team. And it's not because anything changed. It's not because any player looks better. It's because Jamal Williams is the full-time starter in Detroit for the next couple weeks at least, and that offense loves to run the ball. Jamal Williams is running back 8 in fantasy, and he was doing that as a backup. Last week, he had 87 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. He had added 20 yards through the air for 23.7 points. He was your number one running back last week, and he gets the Seahawks. We're just ass cheeks. So yes, I love that. There was much ado about Jonathan Taylor missing his first practice ever since high school Wednesday for a toe injury. All I see is a little extra rest that he got. So, and he's playing the Titans, who, they're an okay defense, but they're playing the Titans at home, divisional game. So Jonathan Taylor should be good to go, should be good to suit up and do his normal thing. But he's kind of been in that list of first round running backs that have disappointed a little bit. Big week 161 yards, a touchdown. He was doing Jonathan Taylor things. And then, the Jacksonville just disaster that they had, but kind of bounced back last week. I mean, he didn't score a touchdown, didn't go over 100 yards, but 71 and 20 against a pretty good Chiefs defense. And then, like I said, he gets Titans this week, divisional matchup. The Colts are kind of looking to bounce back. Matt Ryan's kind of finding his groove in that last drive. So hopefully we can get everything bounced back there. On the other side, we have the person who I did pick as my number one running back in the Dream Team this week, in Joe Mixon. Fuck Joe Mixon. However, once again, listening to the Richard Morgan whale play, that Miami defense should be pretty exhausted going into this week. And, the Bengals should look to take advantage of that and start pounding the rock. Joe Mixon hasn't done anything super spectacular. He had a pretty good week 1. A lot of that coming through the air, and a lot of that playing from behind in Pittsburgh. And they kind of had an insane comeback in the second half. That's where a lot of his points came from. And semi-garbage time, they did come back and almost win that game, but it was semi-garbage time. So I do think Joe Mixon is due for a big week. Then you have Najee Harris, who has just been consistent, I guess is the nicest word that I can say for Najee this year. Pittsburgh looks bad. I said the Patriots have the worst offense in football. The Steelers are right there. I mean, it's them, the Bears, bad. Maybe this is the week we see Kenny Pickett and he kind of opens things up a little bit, but I really don't think that even Kenny Pickett's going to fix this, and I am not a Pickett believer. So, I don't believe in Najee. He's going to get 10 points. That's what he's done 3 weeks in a row. He'll probably score a touchdown and have 40 yards. That's what Najee does. He gets enough volume that even if he sucks or if the offense sucks, he can mess around and get 60 to 70 yards. So get your 10 points out of Najee and let's move on. Tyler Boyd is a real interesting player. Last week I talked about him as one of the pickups I love the most with T. Higgins out. And then he just very easily went for 105 and a touchdown against the Jets. And then once again he'll be playing tonight. So with Andrew with a lot riding on that Bengals game, and the Richard Morgan whale play, that does make me kind of nervous. I don't know if T. Higgins is actually back this week. Let's check on that. Let's go over to Ashley. Got him stashed there. No injury designation. He will be good to go. So Andrew, don't watch this until after the game. Go ahead and leave Tyler Boyd in there, and let's get it rolling. Gabe Davis, obviously the focal point of Andrew's one loss against Wade. Last week only 37 yards. 5.2 points. Gabe Davis, kind of your boomer bust guy. He's either going to go for 5 touchdowns or he's going to go for 5 yards. We don't know. Looks like he missed a practice Thursday, so it may not even come down to it. So, if you're looking at Andrew's bench, which I think is where he'll probably end up going, Tyler Boyd's kind of now the third option in the Bengals offense. Gabe Davis may not even play. DJ Moore sitting there, not really terrified of him. Greg Dortch, if he wants to try to neutralize Kyler Murray a little bit, he's had some pretty solid weeks. Actually, a very Najee stat line there with 9.8, 13.5, and 12.5. Very Najee-like numbers. And then he's got, that's really it, Devin Duvernay, another boomer bust guy, had 20 points in week 1. Hasn't broken 10 since. Obviously, he had that huge touchdown in week 1. I actually scored 2 of them, but that real big one that kind of set Lamar on his journey to QB1 in fantasy. So, he's got some options to plug and play there, but nothing that's really, really terrifying. On the other side, Christian Kirk and CeeDee Lamb. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea. It's a revolving cast of revolving cast of wide receivers over here on Team Goffwang. I mean, I'm doing a lot of matchup based things. I mean, Mike Williams against the Texans. It's like, yeah, the Texans stink, but Mike Williams, they should win that game so much that Mike Williams doesn't have to dominate like he has the last 2 weeks. And I mean dominate in terms of just his physical size and presence, not necessarily the stat line. Obviously against the Chiefs, he popped off. But every wide receiver popped off that week. I think he ended up as like wide receiver 20 that week after scoring 21.5 points. Last week he only had 1 catch, but it was for a touchdown, so that kind of saved me there. Terry McLaurin playing Dallas. I think Carson Wentz might actually die on the field this week. I don't think he's going to be able to throw a ball. He kind of did last week too against the Eagles, and Terry McLaurin still at 102 yards. So it may not matter. Terry McLaurin might be that good, and I may rethink this, but Christian Kirk, I mean, he's Trevor Lawrence is having a breakout season, and he's his number one option. At least 14 points in all 3 games, 117, 78, and 72 yards in his first 3 games, 2 touchdowns in week 2 and 22 points. Kind of the point where it's Christian Kirk is the number one. He's sixth ranked wide receiver in fantasy football right now, and then CeeDee Lamb finally showing up with Cooper Rush, 87 yards and a touchdown, and that just insane one-handed catch. And he gets just an awful Commanders defense this week. So the only thing in my lineup that might change is Christian Kirk going down there for Mike Williams, I guess. I have zero trust in Michael Thomas in London this week. And I think he's got some injury designation, so he may not even travel with the team. Keep an eye on that, but I don't think it's going to matter. I have zero trust. I hate London players. Those are usually some shitty low-scoring games, but at least we have something on in the morning. I don't like, unless it's a stud, I'm not starting a London player. I'll just throw that out there. Unless Jonathan Taylor goes and plays in London, nobody on my team is playing in a London game. And then we go to the flex spots here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire with one of the most hilarious stat lines of all time last week. 7 rushes for 0 yards and a touchdown. I don't even know how that's possible. I think he had like a negative 4-yard run towards the end of the game that wiped away his like 4 yards rushing that he had. But somehow on 0 yards rushing, he scored 12.4 points. So that's pretty hilarious. 5 targets for 39 yards. That's kind of where Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been living this year, where he's been making my money. Is through the air and those receptions. Not to mention he scored 3 touchdowns in 3 games, which helps a lot. Number 4 running back in fantasy right now, just as everybody predicted. He does get a really, really tough matchup against Tampa Bay this week, who is just, their run defense is what they do, and it's why they're winning games. Well, winning games loosely, but they're competitive in games. So that's one that I'm gonna kind of tinker back and forth with. I think he's gonna be the starter. I mean, you don't take the number 4 ranked anything and bench him. So I think he's going to be the starter, but it does kind of worry me. Not as much as I would be worried about Damien Harris on the other side, though. Ramondre Stevenson looks incredible, and once again, the Patriots look like absolute ass cheeks. And then you gotta have the same problem that Clyde does, and that Green Bay rush defense looks really, really good. So, he's splitting carries, which so is Clyde, but he's splitting carries. And the Green Bay defense, and then we get into the kickers and defense, whatever. Eagles playing Jacksonville. I'll probably end up swapping that out because Jacksonville does look really good, but I do think that Eagles defense is a force to be reckoned with. And with a young quarterback, as good as Trevor Lawrence is looking, they can possibly make some mistakes here. So I am going to pick myself to win because I'm going to do that every week, except for that week I played Cameron. If you don't believe in yourself, who's going to believe in you? NFL has this 111 to 102 in favor of Andrew. I disagree. I didn't even really talk about the quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts playing Jacksonville. Jalen Hurts is incredible. Kyler Murray's supposed to be incredible, and he gets a favorable matchup against the Panthers. And these actually picks went right after each other. I took Kyler Murray, and Andrew took Jalen Hurts right after me. So it'd be really nice if Kyler Murray could go ahead and outscore Jalen, or if I could at least get a win just to feel less shitty about that pick. And so that moves on to our last matchup, which is Tim versus Ashley. 1-2 versus 0-3. Would be really interesting if Tim was playing the other Stevenson this week, and Trevor, just to have the 0-3 and 0-3 matchup. But this will suffice. So Ashley, it's up to you to kind of keep this going. Let's see if we can get Trevor and Tim to play each other without a win. I think that would just be funny. I think everyone would enjoy seeing that. Getting into the actual matchup here, Tom Brady, Josh Allen. I don't think there's a bigger mismatch as far as quarterbacks go in the entire league. The problem is that's where Tim's advantage stops. I mean, and even then, I mean, it's Sunday Night Football against Kansas City. He possibly has Chris Godwin back. I mean, this could be the week that Tom Brady returns to Tom Brady form. We could never see it. I mean, he could just be done. But it is a better play than Matt Stafford playing the 49ers, whose defense looks really, really good. So, I mean, you were going to go with Josh Allen. Josh Allen's been the number one quarterback in fantasy 2 years in a row. He's Josh Allen. Getting into the running backs, Cordero Patterson kind of had his breakout game last week. Had 21.8, 141 yards on the ground, 12 through the air. The Falcons looked really, really good. And the Seahawks look really, really bad. So, that's my analysis there. It's hard to take a lot of what Atlanta did last week outside of their game plan of finally fucking throwing Kyle Pitts the ball. It's kind of hard to take anything they did at face value just because they played the Seahawks. So, Seahawks are fucking awful. Cordero Patterson, once again, will be in Atlanta for that game. Wade, if you would like to come out and visit us. Be in Atlanta for that game. Love seeing CPAT. Austin Eckler. I called Alvin Kamara the most disappointing round one running back. And technically in our league, Austin Eckler's not a round one running back. He's putting up great numbers for a round three running back. Problem is you thought you were getting a round one running back. Ranked 13 overall in running backs. Has yet to score a touchdown. 9 points. And he just disappears at the goal line. Just disappears. So, and last week he had 4 rushes for 5 yards. I missed that. That's almost as bad as oh, that's what John was talking about the other day. Oh, okay. Yeah. Hey, that's a bad stat. Not as funny as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I can laugh at Clyde because he scored a touchdown and he had 12 points. Austin Eckler did not do that. So Austin Eckler, I'm fully hitting the panic button on him. It looks like a full-blown committee in LA, and they're playing the Texans this week. I guess that's your one saving grace. Antonio Gibson has looked really good in Brian Robinson's absence. 16, 11, and 10. 12th ranked running back in fantasy. So he is just ahead of Austin Eckler. He is 1 ranking ahead of him. The problem is, I'm pretty sure Ashley got him in week 9 or around 9, 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there. She paid pennies on the dollar for him. Deebo Samuel, one of the most fun people to watch in football. He's incredible. He's going to put up points on the ground, through the air. Broke 10 points every week so far this year. That Sunday night game was awful, and he was kind of stifled a little bit there, scoring only 10 points. But it's Deebo Samuel. They're playing the Rams. We're going to watch it. It's going to be so much fun. Jalen Waddle, I talked about Tyreek Hill being boom or bust earlier. Jalen Waddle is kind of the consistent option in that offense. 69, 171, and 102 yards in his first 3 games. I think he's Tua's favorite target, and obviously I think he should be because they played together at Alabama. They know each other. They kind of have that chemistry there. So if I'm picking one of those two to have the rest of the season, I think I'm actually taking Jalen Waddle. I just feel more comfortable week in and week out putting him in the lineup and knowing that he's not going to put up 4 points like Tyreek did last week. Chris Olave on the other side. I talked about Michael Thomas and how much I hate playing London players. Chris Olave had his breakout performance last week, 147 yards. Still hasn't scored a touchdown, but the Saints aren't really scoring touchdowns. Chris Olave looks, every bit as advertised. It just sucks that all of these awesome wide receivers for the Saints, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, and Michael Thomas, are just going to be hamstrung by Jameis all year. And I was really excited for Jameis to finally look good, but he just doesn't. So that's tough. Tim throwing Khalil Herbert back into the lineup. He seems to be missing on Khalil Herbert just all the time. Khalil 30 points last week. I think he was actually your RB1. I think I said Jamal Williams was earlier, but I think that was wrong. I got the dream team right here, but that obviously was wrong because he had more points right there. Hold on. John's Weekly Nerd Bomb. There it is. Khalil Herbert number 1, Jamal Williams number 2. So that's my bad little stat correction there. Khalil Herbert, your number 1 running back in fantasy. They get the Giants this week. Hell, fucking do it again. Why not? He could have 4 points like he did in week 2. He could have 30. I don't know. Anyway, going back across this, T. Higgins is finally back in the lineup, and I know I touched on him with Tyler Boyd. If T. Higgins is in the lineup, you start him. But, going back once again to the Breadman Well play of the week. Should be points. Bengals should be running up and down the field, and I'm starting any Bengal that I can find outside of Tyler Boyd. Andrew, go fuck yourself. I'm starting any Bengal that I can find at all this week. Too bad I can't find any because they're all taken because the Bengals, went to the Super Bowl last year. The NFL has this 108 to 106, another really, really close matchup. I'm going to go with Ashley. There. I don't know if I can earn your subscription from that one. But I'm going to go with Ashley this week. I need Tim to be 0-4. I need Tim and Trevor to just be winless going right into their matchup. I believe it's in week 5. But yeah, those are the picks this week. So just a quick recap. We got Riley beating John. We've got Cameron beating Trevor. We've got Charlie beating Wade. Got myself beating Andrew. And we have Ashley beating Timothy. So that's your week 4 preview. Let's go have a great week. I know this one's coming out a little bit later. Hopefully you can get it in before Thursday Night Football starts. But let's go have a great week. Good luck, everyone.